thank everybody for coming out today. The reason for having this press conference and having the press conference here at a business in Paducah is to draw attention to how jobs are interrelated to government policy. Larry Kudlow recently wrote about the uncertainty premium that we're paying. And what he referred to as the uncertainty premium is the uncertainty businesses have with all of these new 1,000-page bills of regulations and how it affects the bottom line in their business, whether they can hire people, whether they can keep the people they have, or whether they have to let people go, and that all of these regulations are adding cost to them. Recently, I mentioned in a speech about that we have 79,000 pages of regulations. If you stacked it, it would be 30 feet tall. The regulations add over $1 trillion of cost to businesses like this, and it makes it harder for them to hire people. Why is this important? We're in the greatest recession right now that we've had since the Great Depression. People are out of jobs, and if we want to get them back in jobs, we need to understand that government creates havoc, and government often serves as an impediment to people getting jobs. One of the big pieces of legislation that's come down recently is Obamacare, the federal takeover of the health care plan. And I brought a really simple graph that I'm going to ask Billy to come up and explain to us in a few minutes. This is your new health care plan. Nancy Pelosi says, well, it's 2,500 pages, but you can read about it after we pass it. One, that's pretty arrogant, but two, look how complicated it is. I think it's 170 new agencies, interrelated. Most people don't understand it yet. In fact, most of the regulations haven't even been written yet. So it's passed 2,500 pages by Congress, but I met with insurance agents recently and asked them, will my insurance plan be in this mess? Nobody can tell me yet because the rules haven't even been completely written by the regulators. It's complicated and it makes business decisions difficult. If you have insurance for your employees, will your current insurance be in this mess? Can you continue with the same one? The president says, well, everybody can keep their same plan. Well, I kind of like my plan, but what if it goes up 30% next year and I want to compete for another plan? Now maybe my health savings account isn't being sold because it's not on this health insurance exchange. Creates uncertainty, creates less competition, and it will mean rising premiums. Rising premiums for any business that pays for their insurance for their employees or pays some part of it means an extra cost to that business, and it may mean if Billy has 13 employees, maybe he's going to have 12. You know, or maybe he has 13, he's thinking about hiring a 14th, but he doesn't know whether to do it because of all these new added costs he's having. So it creates an uncertainty premium, and that uncertainty premium is one of the things that's preventing us from coming out of this recession. It's not just health care. We're here today mostly to talk about health care. Financial reform's doing the same thing. All of these new regulations are making it harder for us to come out of this recession. So we're here today to talk about how jobs growing out of the recession, how it is related to governmental policy. I'm very happy to be here today and to introduce a few businessmen who will get up and talk about it from their perspective as well. And I thought I'd start with Mr. Edwards if he wants to say, would you like to say a few words?
Well, my big concern right now really is the economy itself. We're in a construction-related field, and construction or commercial construction has all but dried up in this area. I'm surprised at the business that we do have, and I don't see anything on the horizon that's going to change that. Everything coming from Washington just keeps us from even wanting to even think about hiring somebody else. We're just trying to keep our doors open right now. And really, I guess, want to know from you what your perspective is on what you would do in Washington to create a better atmosphere than what we have right now.
One of the other things that I think is hurting construction, other than health insurance, which is going to be a big problem, is the financial reform. It was 2,300 pages long, but it's a lot of new regulations on banks. So if you have to borrow money to build things, which most people do, they borrow money to build things. No banks failed in Kentucky during the crisis, and yet they heaped 533 new regulations that will be on Kentucky banks, which makes it harder for homeowners, people doing construction, commercial construction, residential construction, to build things because the pipeline to the money is slowed down even more by more regulations. But it's like so many things they do in Washington is hurry up, and let's act. The people want us to act, but they don't think through what the problem was, so when they act or they react, we get all these new regulations, but they're regulating the wrong people, because the problem was in New York. We're in government banks, really, for the most part, not in the local community banks here. So we don't want to dry up your resources. We need to free up those resources. So it'll be the complete opposite approach. If I'm there, it will be opposing the new regulations that President Obama is foisting on us. Billy, did you want to say something?
Well, I think you've expressed it well, and, you know, our business in the last 2 years has dropped over 60% off of where we were 2 years ago, so it's hitting us. What really bothers me is the 600-700 people we've laid off can't go get another job. They're not out there in the construction industry. And how are those people surviving? I'm not sure, and those that are still with us are hanging on, but I think you're right. I mean, healthcare is another big unknown. What kind of cost are we going to have more than what we have now? And that's just going to make it harder for us to survive in business. So I think you've got the right attitude, and the less bureaucracy, the less people we have in Washington, the better off we're going to be. So I certainly encourage you to stay on that road.
Thank you.